brothers and sisters in Jesus Christ. God bless you all, and praying for that. We are getting into the 33rd Sunday of the ordinary season, in which we have reflections from the First King, letter to Hebrews, and St. Mark's Gospel. From all the three readings, I want to specifically speak about the second reading, letter to Hebrews, and also from the Gospel. And there is a reason for that, because this message is very useful and essential for the practical reason. First of all, in the second reading, letter to Hebrews, St. Paul speaks about Jesus who took all the blame to himself. What are the ways that he took the blame? I can trace out three things. The first one is, as Jesus and his disciples were going through the field of grain, his disciples took some grain and started grinding it on the palm. Having seen this, some Pharisees and Sadducees asked him, why your disciples are doing this on the Sabbath? It's not permitted. But Jesus came on to defend them and started pointing out the mistakes of the Pharisees and their observation of this particular thing. And secondly, Jesus and his disciples, while going to visit a house, his disciples and even Jesus didn't wash hands and feet. And there also Jesus came to the aid of his disciples, defending the attitude of the disciples. And that's the great leader's quality. They never blame their disciples, but whereas they used to take the responsibility of the disciples' action to themselves. And I have the similar understanding from the message of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, who spoke about his experience during a launch of a satellite back in 1979. He was the mission in charge of a launching of a satellite in the orbit. But before the launching, the computer dictated some mistakes. But in spite of those dictation, he permitted for launching, and instead of going this satellite into the orbit, it went to the Arabian Sea. After which there was enormous tension for him, because it's a 10 years work of 100,000 people. He did not know how to experience or how to face this particular failure. And therefore, when media came to ask regarding this failure, he didn't know how to answer. And that's where Dr. Satish Dhawan came to his aid, who was the in charge of ISRO, who took all the blame to himself. He never said that it was the mistake of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Had been said that it was the mistake of Abdul Kalam, then we would have never got a great scientist in Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. So that is the greatness of a leader who takes the responsibility and blame to himself. And this is where Jesus also shows a perfect example to the world, having taken all the sins of this world. Although he was sinless, he took the sin of this world towards his shoulder. And maybe in the eye of the world, he was a failure, or his crucifixion was a failure, but in fact it was not, because no leaders is dare enough to remain in the front, and he took all the blames to himself, including the crucifixion. And that is where Jesus is different from any other leaders in the world and any other persons in the world. The second one is regarding the gospel of the day, in which Jesus observed a woman is coming in the temple and putting 2 copper coins, which make a penny. And people started blaming over her attitude sometimes, I suppose. But Jesus came to her aid. Why? Because that particular widow is standing for many things in the world. It reminds of the affluent countries' attitude towards the poor countries. We know there are 195 countries in the world, and most of these countries are poor, in fact. And you know, the rich countries are just sucking the blood of the poor countries in the name of development, in the name of introducing technologies, even in the name of introducing the vaccinations. But in fact, it is not. And therefore, this woman is standing for the poor countries, but whereas she is doing best out of herself. So it's not quantity what is more important, but it's a quality, and she is best in that. And the second thing what I feel is it's also a reminder for all the Christians in the world, especially the Catholic, who has a perfect system of faith. We have a hierarchical system on which our the faith of the church is being constructed. We have the vicar of the church, Pope, and cardinals, archbishops, bishops, priests, nuns, and lay ministers, and also the body of the church, that's families. You know, actually people are trying to shake our faith through propagating what is not required and to bring all the more confusions in the church. And mass media is very energetic to bring confusions within the Catholics. And it shows a sort of poorness, a sort of widowhood. And you know, we should be strong enough to believe in our faith like that woman who believed, instead of going in the streets selling of her own body, which was an option for a widow of Jesus' time, but she didn't do that. So we should not give up our own faith. We should not give up our own legacy, having believed in the propagations of wrong medias of this day. And let's, like that woman who believed more in quality than quantity, should be assimilated in our heart. And let us try to put that particular faith in our Christian realities. So let Jesus bless each of us through today's reflections and reading, and the presence of Jesus bless your family, bless our Catholic life. Amen.